Do you really think we have free will or not? This is a question that I get quite a lot, either in the comments on my YouTube videos or inside my online school. Understandably, it's a question that has a lot of kind of back and forths as to whether we really do have free will or whether we don't. So in today's video, I'm going to break down my opinion, my understanding on this, and why I believe that we do have free will. Now, I've listed out here some of the kind of conversations or kind of points that people reference when they're saying that we potentially don't have free will. So I'm going to try to go through them and hopefully provide a bit more clarity as to why I think we do have free will. And the reasoning behind why I do think we have free will is partly just I believe it. I've been through this logically, and to me it makes sense that we do have free will. However, it is my opinion on free will is dependent on having a belief in reincarnation and also karma. If they're things that you don't believe in, it's going to be hard for you to reconcile what I'm going to teach you in this video or explain in this video. But also, as many of you know, I was taught by a very advanced spiritual teacher, a divine avatar, and he expressed to me very clearly that the divine did give you all free will, as in us. Other avatars, Mother Mira, and other avatars out there have also expressed the same point that we do have free will. So it's partly my own logical reasoning, but also what I've been taught and what I've observed other very advanced teachers expressing. So these points here are very deep, and I could spend 2 hours talking about the subconscious mind and why I think that the way that the subconscious mind works is partly down to our own influence, or largely down to our own influence. I've not got the time to be able to do that to make this an engaging video, but I'm going to go through it and hopefully touch upon important points that I think sort of will help to emphasize my reasoning. So the subconscious mind, many people will say, understandably, that, oh, well, if we've got free will, why is it that like 75% or something like that of our decisions and our actions in life are actually habitual? A lot of what we do in life isn't something, they're not what we're consciously thinking about. A lot of it is habit-based or environmental influences, circumstantial influences, influences from our upbringing that has fed the subconscious mind, which is now influencing a lot of our decisions in life, which from some people's belief and understanding would suggest that we actually don't have free will in a lot of cases. Now, as I said at the start, if you don't believe in karma, if you don't believe in reincarnation, then that would ring true to you, because from your point of view, we're born and then we're getting all of this influence from our upbringing, from our environment, and all of that is influencing our behaviors and how we act and respond in life. And often a lot of that is not conscious, not like we've not stopped to think about the decisions we're making in that moment. They're just happening based upon these influences. So that's understandable. However, for me personally, I do have a belief in karma and in reincarnation. And my belief behind this is that the environment that we're born into, so these two kind of work together, the environment that we're born into is based upon our karma from previous lives. So let's take, for example, if I was a really horrible person and I'd killed people and I was in wars and I don't know, lived that kind of lifestyle, I might be born into an environment that is really hostile, that is at war with another country, that is in a really bad position. And all of that influence is now going to continue in that next life, in that next incarnation. So in that situation, it seems as though the environment has affected your subconscious mind, and it has, but the root cause of it, going back and looking back, not just at this lifetime, but potentially 2, 3, 4, 100 lifetimes back, the subconscious mind and the environment that we're being born into in this lifetime has been influenced directly by the decisions we made with our free will in previous lifetimes. So whether we, for example, end up in an abusive household when we're born, that is a direct, the reason for that, in my personal belief, is that at some stage in our history, we have done that, and therefore we're now brought up in an environment where we're receiving that. And that's, yes, influencing our subconscious mind, and that is going to influence how we act in the world. But the very root cause of it was the use of our free will in a previous life or earlier in this life or potentially 100 lifetimes back. So to me, the environment and the subconscious mind, although it seems like it's just very random and it's very just bad luck if you get placed in an environment where you're experiencing difficulties and you're now influencing your subconscious mind in a way that is not helping you in terms of the decisions you make, your use of your free will, or what we perceive to be free will. To me, that is based upon karma, largely. The influence of who we're around, partly decisions that we make in the now, but a lot of it is based upon decisions and the way we have acted in the past. Another influence is what I call the law of attraction. I say I call, lots of people call it the law of attraction or the law of manifestation. Effectively, that is based upon what we think about repeatedly. We are like a big magnet, and the universe will provide us with exactly what we're thinking about, or what we're thinking about over and over again, what we believe to be true will come into our experience. So there's partly that as well. If we're thinking really positive things and we're living a positive life and we're aspiring for higher way of living, we're going to gradually draw that to us. So these two laws are different. And yes, I understand that there'll be some of you that watch this who are thinking, well, I don't believe in the law of attraction, or I don't believe in the law of karma, or you're probably saying, prove to me that karma exists, or prove to me the law of attraction exists. I can't. They're beliefs of mine based upon my experience with my personal teacher. Just as you have perhaps a love for your mum that I can't prove, but it's there and you know it to be true. That's how I feel about these two universal laws. So environmental and subconscious kind of tie into that. That's not the whole answer, but as I mentioned at the start, without cluttering this video and making it about 3 hours long, that's the main kind of gist of the subconscious and environmental factors that influence our subconscious mind and our decision making. Circumstantial kind of ties into this as well, to be quite honest. That is related to events that we go through in life that then impact how we behave moving forward. So that could also be tied into that. Now, many people, and I understand this as well, this is not to talk down to anyone, will say, what about kind of divine intervention or grace, or what about prayer? How does that influence the use of our free will? So I will try to draw this out actually. If you imagine, let's just think about this. Let's just say that this is infinite consciousness up here. Let's just say that that is like directed out. I mean, it's a terrible drawing, but you get the idea. And we are kind of like tapping into this here. We're like tapping into this experience of consciousness. And let's just say that all the billions of people, or millions, or however many people there are now in the world, are tapping into this as well. So you've got this vast, infinite consciousness, and we're all just tapping into it. And as far as I believe, this is our kind of free will here. So we have free will beyond this point. However, ultimately, and you do have to take in the relative and the absolute with everything to do with spirituality, to be honest. From the relative point of view, for example, I have a body. From the relative point of view, I'm separate to everyone else, and so are you. But from the absolute point of view, everything is the divine. So you always have to take into account that there is a relative point of view and there is an absolute point of view. And with regards to this question of free will, from the relative point of view, yes, we all have free will because we all have this individual experience of consciousness, and we all have the ability to discern between one thing or the other, to make a decision between one thing or the other. However, from the absolute point of view, everything is the divine. So in my personal belief, the divine gifted each soul with the ability to make their own decisions. However, at the very highest point of view, the divine was the one that gave us that ability. The divine is the soul. The divine is, the rubber. The divine is the pen. So from the absolute point of view, everything is source. Everything is one. But from the relative point of view, which is what we're experiencing now, the relative point of view, this is separate. to me. From the relative point of view, I'm separate to God and I have free will. But from the absolute point of view, I'm not and you're not. We're all part of it. So this is really, really important to remind yourself of, is that we always have to take into account the relative and the absolute. So as I keep saying, from the relative point of view, we as an individual body, as an individual mind, have the ability to think and make our own decisions. We have free will. But from the highest point of view, from a person who is potentially God realized or enlightened, there is no separation between you and the divine. There is only one will. So I hope that kind of makes that clear enough for you. Again, without spending hours on this, I try and keep these points fairly concise. And then we have, of course, the ego and inner conflict. So, for example, many people will say, well, I want to start going to the gym. I want to start this healthy routine of either going to the gym or getting up in the morning and meditating. And I set this intention at 7, 8 p.m. at night, and I think, I'm going to get up at 6 p.m. I'm going to do my meditation. But then when I wake up in the morning, a different part of me answers the alarm. A different part of me wakes up in the morning and then does not want to meditate or does not want to go to the gym. And so from this sort of standpoint, there appears to be different aspects to ourselves. There's one part of us that has this desire to improve and take up healthy habits and has our interests at heart. And then there's this other part of us that seems to be opposing to that wants to keep us small, wants to keep us lazy. Now, I tend to call that the ego. Some people may call it the lower self. But this aspect of ourself is the very part of us that makes taking on healthy habits very difficult. It's the part of us that opposes any kind of self-control, self-discipline, healthy habits, because it doesn't make any sense, does it? You think, okay, if I'm a free person with free will, I should be able to say, right, I'm going to start the gym and that's it. I don't have any opposing thoughts. But we all have this part of us, which I call the ego, which is a false identification with the body. It's the part of us that makes us feel separate. It's the part of us that in Sanskrit, the word that they use is maya. It's an illusion. It's the sense of being separate from everyone and everything. This is the ego. Now, what's important to remind yourselves of with the ego is that it started off very small. The ego started off as just an aspect of ourselves that gives us a sense of I in order to be able to keep ourselves safe when we come in danger. If we cross paths with a wild animal, it would give us this sense of survival. It's the survival mechanism within us. But the problem is, over all the different times we've been here, this I has grown. And the strength of this I is now massive, and it dominates a lot of our decisions. However, the only reason it's done that is because of the way that we've used our free will in previous lives. So let's just say, to keep this really, really simple, let's just say that we had 5 incarnations, right? And on the first incarnation, the ego was very much under our control. It was a part of us that made us feel, give us that sense of I. So we felt like we had something to protect, a body to look after. However, during that incarnation, we allowed this I too much scope. We got a bit jealous. We wanted a bit more. We let desires grow more. We didn't use our free will in the best way we could. And over each successive incarnation, this sense of I expanded and expanded to the point where we're at now, which, well, I say we're at, many people are at, where the ego is very much in control and we're very much swayed by how we're feeling. We get angry quickly, we get jealous quickly, we're very self-centered, we want more all the time, we're overrun by desires, we find it hard to stick to habits and stick to things that we have decided to do. And it's very easy to kind of look at ourselves and say, well, it's just the ego, I've not got free will, there's a part of me that is dominating me here, so I've not got free will. And that may be true in the moment. However, The reason for that is because of the way that we've used our free will in the first place. So it would be like someone who's overweight saying, well, I'm overweight. It's not fair that I'm overweight. But the reason that you're overweight is because of the way that you've used your free will in the past. You've overeaten and you've not done enough exercise probably over and over and over again, and now you're overweight. So it's a byproduct of the way that that person has used their free will. And in the same sense, with the way that the ego is in charge for a lot of us now, it's not just by chance, it's because we've allowed it to happen. We've allowed that to take place. So it's a byproduct of the way that of the decisions that we've made. So this, hopefully, and I know for a fact, because of some of the points I've touched upon here, that this is not going to be a popular video in terms of people aren't going to be on board with this. I understand that, because many people don't believe in karma, many people don't believe in the law of attraction, and many people don't believe that the ego grows from lifetime to lifetime. I've made videos on those topics individually before, and I know that's the case. But this, to me, it makes sense. To me, this encompasses, and I know I've not touched upon all the points here by any means, but these are some of the key points to me that answer the question of, well, that answers these questions really, and kind of gives a more well-rounded understanding of the fact that I truly believe we do have free will. And I've also found personally, over 25 years of meditation now, that this sense of I does begin to diminish. So the more you take part in things like, or you practice things like meditation, the more that you act as best as you can selflessly in the world, you put less emphasis on yourself. All of these types of ways of thinking or ways of behaving or practices, they do start to diminish this sense of I, and you find, at least I've found, and I'm not by any means saying I've diminished it completely, but I have found that my willpower has grown. The more you reduce this sense of I, personally, I've found that my conscious will has expanded, and my ability to stick to things that I've decided to do, or habits that I want to form, has become much, much easier. So I hope that explains in some detail free will and gives you a bit more clarity perhaps on some of these areas that you might have been questioning before. If not, no worries at all, but I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, so do let me know. Failing that, I'll see you on the next video. Thanks a lot.